achieve all of my goals or I don't achieve all of the goals.
What's up, everybody? I'm going to be reacting to How to Move 10 Times Faster in Your Life by Hormozi and Chris. After every single topic, I'll try to give my brief explanation of why I liked it, and just break it down.
In 3 generations, I'll be forgotten, and the only
In 3 generations, you'll be dead. You'll be forgotten. You'll just be a picture on a wall in a grave that is unread by half of your family, if not less. You will be forgotten in 3 generations. Not 1 generation, not 2 generations, but 3 generations. That is your great grandchildren. Which means you will be forgotten within that. Unless if you're alive and you're able to share and express your story, which I really hope I am. But yeah.
people who were naysaying against me will also be dead. And so then it's like, just do it for me. And then when I wake up every day,
Donald Trump, I still have. I didn't use it. I used it as a. So your daughter has to listen. Apologies.
there's only one voice I have to listen to.
But that means that you need to be able to work out what to do from first principles. You now no longer have societal norms or assistants or role models or archetypes or expectations. And that's also difficult in a different way.
The Meats family has finally gained a member. Meet Applewood Smoked Ham. Smoked is their middle name. 2 for $7 ham and Swiss melts. Arby's.
I think that the more you flex whatever that muscle is of like independent thinking, the more it becomes the default way that
The more you think of something new, which is flexing the muscle of the way that you want to think, act, or do, the more you build that formation, is what he's saying.
you think, and then everyone else's action is just start looking more and more insane to you.
What, like? What's an example of that you can think of?
I mean, shoot. Just the most basic ones of like living the life that you don't want, not wearing what you want to wear, not dating who you want to date, not living where.
Not living the life you want to live. Not becoming the version you want to become, not doing the stuff that you want to do. Because without doing these so-called things, you won't learn. You will stay stagnating through your realm of your life.
You want to live like you're living at home and you want to move and your parents say no and you don't make the move, or you're dating a girl because she's socially accepted, by your friend group, she's safe, but like there's always some distance in between you, but you're like, I don't want to risk it, right? Or like you're in the job and every day you go there and you're like, I mean, it's okay. And the idea of just living an okay life just sounds so terrifying to me that the freedom to fail over and over again is still more fulfilling to me. At least it feels like it's real than walking through kind of on autopilot. And so I think that's a lot of the choices that other people make that seem insane to me now, but didn't seem insane to me a decade ago. You know what I mean? I think it's just like as you practice taking more agency, taking more responsibility for the decisions, then you just get better and better at it. And then it just seems more and more ridiculous. They're like, I just can't quit my job. And you're like, why? Like, no, physically, why? Like, why can't you quit your job? Like, you know what I mean? They start hyperventilating. And it's like, could you move in with your parents? Could you move in with a friend? Could you split rent? I mean, I could, but I mean, other people who are going to die in 100 years would think what? And one of my favorite ones is, and I say this all the time to Layla, like whenever we're getting to some sort of like mini complaint, it's like, if you zoom out far enough, you can't see the earth. So we're talking about like, oh man, they're gonna mess up this order on this vendors. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, if you zoom out far enough, you can't see the earth. It's just like it just puts everything immediately into perspective of how ridiculous some of the things that we're concerned about are.
Sean Puri's got this thing where he says, don't follow what most people do because you don't want the results that most people get. The average person is obese, likely to be divorced, and has less than 1K in the bank. It feels safe to do what everyone else is doing, but it's actually a terrible decision.
It's like the best way to guarantee to not have the life that you want is to do what everyone else is doing.
Agreed. To be mediocre, you are mediocre. To be above average, you are not like anybody else.
Unless you want what everyone else has, which no one does.
Yeah, it's being able to think for yourself and treating it like a muscle, I think, is a smart way to consider it, because in the beginning it's really, really hard. You've been resting on societal norms and the way you've dealt with past trauma and your parents' expectations and what all of your friends do and what's accepted and all of this stuff for so long.
The way you reframe the most part of your life, the way you rethink your life, the way you understand your life is a way that other people don't understand it. Which means you is not like anybody else. You are above average.
That when it first comes to you needing to step on that muscle, it's like trying to move your ears. Like, all humans have got muscles that can move their ears, but because no one works it as a child, they just atrophy away. And this is the ear muscle of personal growth.
I think I had a lot of practice with it because so like a lot of people have many voices that they hear that they feel are judging them, right? They have their friends, they have their uncle, they have their siblings, they have their cousins, coworkers, whatever. I think I had just one voice that I heard really loudly. And I was talking to one of our employees the other day, and I was trying to put it in perspective, a younger guy. And I was like, imagine how much you care about your mother's opinion and your father's opinion and and all of those other people. I was like, and now imagine that there's literally only one, because I had no siblings. I basically had no mother. I had just a father. And so like his approval was literally everything. And he disapproved of the path that I wanted to take in my life. And so I think a lot of these mental faculties or these little frameworks or these isms just came from like, how can I combat this incredibly booming voice in the background? Because like when I look at what I was doing at the time, like I was a consultant, I graduated in 3 years, I took the consulting job, I did all the things. But the craziest thing was that the moment that my father was most proud of me and he approved of my life the most was when I was the saddest. And so that's when I was like, maybe his approval isn't the right way to feel good about life. And so that started basically the 6-month journey from when I decided that I wanted to change my life till when I changed it. And I think that like as you become more able or more potent or higher agency, that timeline between when you decide you want to do something and when you actually do it just continues to compress, right? Like now if I want to change something, I'm like, let's change it, like done. We walk out of a thing, I was like, we're never going to do that podcast again, or I don't want to talk to this person again, or whatever it is, right? Whereas before it's like, okay, I have to sleep on it, I have to really think about it, and like, how am I going to, it's like, why do I care about how I'm going to say it? This is what it is, done. And it's just like, that timeline is compressed, but the hardest one for me, like the first one was by far the hardest, and every one since then. The nice thing is that no matter how difficult your circumstance is, if you have, like the bigger the wall that you have to get through is, as soon as you get past that one big wall, you then can use that wall as the evidence for why you can jump over the next wall. Because
the evidence is where you lie within the realm of your life. Without evidence, you don't have structure. Without structure, you have nothing. Evidence is the story that you will one day tell. Pretty much.
That will be the biggest one. And so like after I did quit my job and left my house and
and on top of the evidence builds character. Evidence builds evidence. So then you can understand. Because without evidence, you are going to rely on just yourself, and you don't have the proof that backs it up with.
Baltimore and didn't tell my dad until I was across the country because I was so afraid. Like people think of me as like some big alpha, whatever. I was like, I was so afraid of my father's disapproval that I didn't tell him until I physically left the state. Like I'm not like, think about that. Like I wasn't even just one state over. I was like 5 states over. And then I was like, hey, by the way, I'm going to California. And he was like, well, let's come over. We'll talk about it. And I was like, I'm in Ohio.
Already here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Already.
And then then obviously he had a different reaction, right? But then after that, it was like, what do I have to do now? It's like, oh, I gotta sell strangers. And I was like, I told my dad I didn't want to do what he wanted. How hard could this be? And so like it then becomes this one huge proof point. So the bigger the dragon is that you have to slay, the more evidence you have that you can slay the next dragon. And I think that is, if there's ever been a good point for why getting over the one first hard one is so hard, is that it will then give you the reinforcement that you can do whatever you need to do next.
Yeah, the life you want is on the other side of a few hard conversations, and you're living a life you hate because you're too afraid to have them.
I think about that a lot, because like whenever I feel anxious or insecure or angry or sad, I'm like, what conversation do I need to have that I'm not having? And so then, and usually if I just think for not that long, I'm like, this is the conversation I've been putting off. And then, I'm not the...
Whatever hard conversation you need to have, it is the one conversation that you need to have to improve your life today.
The poster child of mental health. And so I'll just call myself a pansy for not having the conversation. And then I just have it. And so again, I think it's like, I need to have this conversation, and the time between when I have it versus, or when I know I need to have it, when I actually have it, just continues to compress. And if you've ever had like a breakup or a employee firing, or a quitting if you're an employee, like these things that you dread, I don't know if you notice it, but like the day you do it, the moment after you do it, I'm like, how many other conversations can I have? Like, I want to be like, I'm like, who else do I need to talk to? Yeah, totally. Because
become a serial killer for awkward conversations.
So like the next series of hard conversations that I had after I left home was actually like years later. So I had multiple partners, and I said I had a partner in one of my gyms. I had a partner in 4 other gyms. I had a partner in a chiro and dental marketing agency, and all of them relied on me to make money. And so all of their livelihoods were still dependent on me, but I was splitting everything, and it was horrible for me. At the time. And so I remember when I ended up getting in a DUI, and I talked to a performance coach or whatever, and he was like, your stress and these conversations could literally kill you. He's like, they almost did. So I got in a head-on collision at 60 miles an hour, and I walked away, no injuries. But it was like my wake-up call, but not to stop drinking. It was my wake-up call that I needed to have these conversations. And that's what I was avoiding when I was drinking. It wasn't the alcohol. It was, what were the things that I'm avoiding, that I'm using alcohol to get away from? And so the next day, I had the first conversation with the first partner, and it was horrible. But the moment I was done, I was like, I got to call the other guy. And I called the other one. I was like, this is how it is. And the thing is I had this backstop of my death, of like, You almost just died because you wouldn't have this conversation. And so then it just gave me this courage to just be like, and whatever the reaction was, I was like, I'd rather be alive. Like, that was it. And so it's weird though, because death has been this really recurring theme in my life, that like the same thing happened when I was like the only thing that gave me enough balls to stand up to my dad, to be fair, from a distance from the car when I was driving halfway across the country. Like, let's not make me into too big of a hero here. Was the idea that like I started thinking like every day, I was like, I hope I don't wake up. You know what I mean? And that was the thing where I was like, this is a big enough problem that like if you don't want to wake up, then
What have you got to lose?
exactly. And that was it. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. And that was when I think on the last podcast we talked about this, where it's like, if everybody who's like at the bottom and feels like they have nothing going for them, reframe that as, I have nothing going.
What do you have to lose? What do you have to gain? What do you have to understand about this certain situation? Because if you are at rock bottom, you are not going to learn anything within being at rock bottom. You're only going to learn anything and everything that you need to get out of your certain situation. But how are you going to be able to pick yourself up and get yourself out of this hellhole? Pretty much is what he's trying to say.
For me, which also means that I have nothing to lose by taking action, it makes you a much more dangerous person. And I think that was the flip that I've had repeatedly shown to me in my life that allowed me to take the step that I was afraid to take.
Have I told you about the region beta paradox? Have you seen that one?
Oh,
okay, so this is interesting. So imagine that you had to go a mile or less, and if you did...
A mile?
A mile.
Okay.
If you had to travel a mile or less, you would walk it. And if you had to go more than a mile, you would drive it.
Okay.
So paradoxically, you would go 2 miles quicker than you would go 1 mile.
Uh-huh.
If you follow that rule, the important insight here is that if you only take action when things cross a certain threshold of badness, sometimes better things can feel worse than worse things.
Oh, yeah.
So if you look around and you see that people are stuck in region beta, this zone of comfortable complacency, right?
Comfortable complacency. When you're comfortable and you cannot complain, you dwell on that comfortable and you swell and you just stay in that comfortable complacency is pretty much what he's trying to say. And if you dwell on it for too long, you will dwell on your past for way too long, if that makes sense.
The guy that sticks in his just okay job because his boss isn't too much of a dick, but the pay isn't that good and he's not really that passionate, but it's all right, whatever. The person that stays in the acceptable relationship, they're not that fired up, but they're not really in love and their partner's not really got much alignment with their interests. Or the person that stays in a crappy apartment and there's a bit of mold in the ceiling, but it's cheap and it's in a good area of town or whatever. All of these people would be better off if their situations were worse. Because it would give them the activation energy to kick them out of the bottom, and their only regret would be not doing it sooner.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete...
Dude, I love that. So it's funny because if I look back on the instances that were the most painful in my life, every single one of them, without fail, has created a disproportionate gain, right? Like the most painful thing early on was for me was quitting my job and leaving my dad basically. And then that created my first business and the gyms and all of that stuff. Getting into the DUI, the head-on collision, and like that whole situation got me out of all of these failed partnerships that I wasn't willing to do. But in the moment, I was like, I'm such a failure. Like I suck at everything. But that gave me the springboard. When I lost everything the first time after that, that then gave me like the idea that I needed to change the business model around, right? And that's what switched me into the licensing model, right? And so like each of these times, and then that became, the first real fortune.
This is kind of like alchemy.
Yeah.
Like turning something which is worse than useless into something that's as precious and useful as possible.
I'm sure you know the parable of the man and his son, and he like buys the son a horse, and then it falls, and he breaks the leg, and then they're like, oh, it's so sad, and then the army comes, and the son doesn't die, and then it's like, oh, it's how great, right? And so it's one of those really interesting ones where like whatever negative situation, and this is probably good for the audience, but like if you think back to all the negative situations you had, like the really, really bad ones, when you expand the time horizon, most times they become net wins. And so then it just means that like if you're in a really tough time right now, You just gotta wait. and then you'll get your reference point back on all the things that changed it.
If you're in a tough time, you'd rather wait than get through the tough time and just not wait, because when you change your reference point, you change your mindset, you change your mentality, you change everything. When you change your reference point, you change everything in life. That's the way I look at it.
Result, because most times when shit is
Change
bad,
your result,
it
yeah.
can't get worse. So then you feel like, well, it can't get worse than this, and then your action threshold decreases, and you do all the things you know you should have done anyways. And so it's like we have this big stack of should do's, and we just wait until it's 2 miles.
Yep.
And then you just
I'm getting in the car.
like the firing conversation, and you're like, well, I just fired one person, or like I just ended one partnership, I just broke up with one girl, or whatever it is, and you're like, who else do I need to talk to today? Right? Like, and then in like you have these rapid periods of growth that happen, and then you have the next web of comfort because it's way better than you were before.
Yep.
And I think I wonder, this is more just like an open thought, but like I wonder how long like more successful people stay in that next plateau. Like I wonder if their threshold for
Action stays low.
yeah, their I'm getting comfort, like how quickly they get comfortable into like I need to change, I need to get better.
Next one. The heaviest things in life aren't iron and gold, but unmade decisions. The reason you are stressed is that you have decisions to make and you're not making them.
It's a good quote.
You said it. You said it.
I think a lot of times the decisions that we make are predicated on the conversations we need to have, because usually like and what's interesting is like you can define commitment by eliminating alternatives. So if you're committed, you've eliminated alternative actions, right? Like you can say I'm committed, but until you eliminate other options, you're not committed.
There's always a get out of jail free card.
Right. And so a lot of people make decisions to end relationships, to quit their job, to start the new thing, but they don't become committed to the decision until they remove the other options. And then you're forced to take action on it. And so I think actually defining those two different things. Now you could define, decision as to kill off, like decidere from Latin, but from a colloquial thing, I think there are two different instances. It's like I need to change this, and then I do change it. And the making the decision is when it becomes a commitment.
Why are unmade decisions so heavy?
I think, at least for me, it's
unmade decisions are just like, the way I look at unmade decisions is that even if you have an unmade one, it has to be made. It has to be done, because if it's not going to be done, nothing will change. Nothing will change that idea. Unmade decisions are destroyers waiting to destroy your life. That's the way I look at unmade decisions, because it can either destroy you, create you, or dictate you, because you have the pen to the story that you can unwrite yourself to. And these unmade decisions can either, like I said, destroy you, dictate you, or curate you. Curate being the most influential, because you can curate any reference point to the longevity of your life, because without the longevity, without the dictation, you will go nowhere.
Because I have this hamster wheel on the back of my mind where I keep playing out different scenarios. And so I keep thinking like, well, maybe I need to change what I'm currently doing. Maybe if I just rethought, like, because I'm a big frame guy. So I'm like, maybe I just need to be thinking about this differently, right?
I'm a big frame guy too, because without reframing your experience, you won't go anywhere. You won't change. You won't dictate anything. You won't truly change anything until you become that best version of yourself.
Maybe if I zoom all the way out, the Earth doesn't exist. So maybe this doesn't matter. Or maybe
If I zoom all the way out, the Earth doesn't exist. Yeah, because your life is so petite to what other people think that their lives influence to. They fluctuate towards one thing. They solidate towards one thing. They stay towards one opinion and one thing only. And you need to stay your life on course.
I'm just making a problem that doesn't exist. Maybe the best action I should take is nothing, right? Like I reframe all those things.
Maybe the best action I should take is nothing. I mean, it is a valid point, but like, when you want to take nothing, you get very little things in return. You don't get everything. You don't learn anything and everything. You learn everything in one thing, in one fall swoop, is what he's trying to say.
But usually, it's just because I'm afraid of something. And then that's why I'm not making the decision. And I think once I name and put a face, and it's usually not even a thing that I'm afraid of, it's one person's judgment I'm afraid of. And then when I name the person, then it becomes real. Instead of being this amorphous, like people, society, judgment, it's like Tom. Like, do I really care what Tom thinks? I guess so. It seems like I'm not
Do
making...
you really care what other people think, or do you care about what you think? Do you care about your parents? Do you care about the people that you talk to? Do you care about anything that you care about, that you talk about?
this big change in my life because of Tom.
Looks like Tom.
Do you make changes for other people, or do you make changes for yourself? If you make changes for other people, you're not going to change. I mean, you will change, but like, not in the ways that you want to change too.
Tom's more in control of my life than I am.
Dude, so I remember this. When I was 19 years old, I was super angry, like all 19-year-old men, right? That's the standard default, right? I was angry at both my parents because I was 19, right? And I remember blaming them for everything, blaming them for my life, blaming them for not being a better person. I literally blamed them for being a bad person. And I remember realizing that when I blamed them, that I gave them control over my life. And then the idea that the people that I hated the most at the time were the ones who actually were controlling me was the thing that most sickened me, to then actually flip my narrative to actually taking control. Like, that was the one thought process. Like, my mother, I'm giving her control over my romantic relationship. Like, my mother controls this? Fuck that. I was like, no. And so, like, just the idea that somebody who I was disgusted by at the time had that much power is what gave me the power to start taking action.
So this hamster wheel thing
Yeah.
that continues to distract you, I've got this concept called anxiety cost. So kind of like opportunity cost.
Yeah.
When you have an unmade decision, every single second that you spend thinking about the unmade decision could have been gotten back had you just made the decision.
Oh, yeah.
And realizing that it's a justification for eating frogs earlier in the day.
Anxiety costs. You get one thing to atone for another. Your anxiety atones for one thing, but your anxiety atones for every single thing that it plays out.
I need to answer that email. The longer that you wait until you answer that email, the more times you will think the thought.
The longer you wait to answer that text message, answer that email, the longer it takes to atone for a certain complexity of mind. What I mean by that is because we all atone for certain things in our lives. We all atone from certain frames, certain realms, and certain different ideas of mind.
I need to answer that email.
Yeah.
And if
You need to answer that email, that hard conversation, that understanding to lead to that better perspective of where you see your life going.
we assume that what truly, truly matters in life is the time and the attention that we spend within that time, your time is being captured and your attention is being captured by a thought that could have been gotten rid of had you have just done it, had you have just had the conversation, broken up with the relationship, left the job, told the father, whatever. done your stretches, cleaned your teeth, had a shower, whatever it is that you needed to do, all of that anxiety cost could have been gotten rid of had you just gone and done it.
The reality is, I'm using multiple AI tools, but when it comes to writing, I trust Grammarly.
You can move through life at 7 times the rate of other people by simply changing when you say you're going to make a decision from end of week to end of day. So think about how that stacks up. So it's like, let's say that there were 4 decisions that you needed to make. If the normal person takes a week to make the decision, and then their mind moves on to the next thing that they have anxiety for and start making that decision and decide another week, decide another week, decide another week. It's a month to make those 4 decisions. Whereas the Superman that takes one decision day 1, second decision day 2, third decision day 3, fourth decision day 4, they aren't even finished the week yet, and they're where the other person is at the end of the month. And like that speed of decision making, like not paying the attention cost, the opportunity cost of your time, I think it's really profound in terms of how quickly people move through life, in terms of achieving the goals.
The longer you wait to make a decision, the longer it takes for you to actually do something about that decision, if that makes sense.
They set out, because people are like, how is that guy so young and he's achieved X, Y, and Z? It's like, well, what takes you a month to make a decision?
What takes you a month takes him 1 day to make a decision. Okay, I gotta add more to that. Hey, Mom. So, when it takes you 1 week to make a decision, it takes him end of day. So, you speed up your process to making a decision to the end of day to the end of the week. Because he accomplishes more because he does so much at the end of the day, and you only accomplish so much because you only make the decision at the end of the week, is what he's trying to say. Because his action threshold is way more better and different than yours, if that makes sense.
We make it an hour, and then the next hour I make another decision that takes you your next month. And so like that's how you can go 30 times or 100 times that.
That's how you go way faster than all the other people. It's like, for me, I'm trying to post, I'm gonna do 3 to 5 long form videos per day, and then 5 to 10 to 15 short form videos per day. That is my main go-to. That is my main go-to. But it's hard for me to do that because I know nobody will follow down this path. An exception is one of an exception. Nobody will follow you because they don't know what you're truly going through.
Than the quote average person who's overweight, has $1,000 in their bank account, and is going to die at 70.
Can you just go back to before you made that first decision with your dad? Because you've mentioned it, people might look at your, I would say, ruthlessness, at least in some regards, with decision making, hiring and firing and making these business decisions. And there's all of these great stories about, and I had this thing and I realized that partner wasn't right, so I got rid.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab a soda. not the most important thing.
that business. And, you know, that's the sort of thing that would tear most people up for 6 months, 18 months, maybe forever.
Yeah.
And to look at that degree of cutthroatness or at least decisiveness, I think is almost unfathomable for a lot of people. Are you a representative avatar? Is leaving Baltimore Alex a representative avatar for the average person?
I think so. I mean, I was high achieving. You know, I mean, like, I did well in school. I tried hard. I did those things. But in terms of my risk tolerance and my fear of failure and my insecurities, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anything, real talk, I'll bet you that I have more insecurities than most people because those insecurities are what drove me.
I'm the same way. I have a lot of insecurities of either posting a video or just talking to a random person. Because you don't know what those hard conversations can lead to. Can lead to a best friend, can lead to a relationship, can lead to whatever. Insecurity is what drives a lot of people. Then risk tolerance. Risk tolerance, I have a lot of risk tolerance too.
To do well in those things, not because I cared about school, but because I cared about what other people thought about me.
Yeah, I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of high performers. On balance, people are driven way more by fear of insufficiency than they are with some well-balanced, perfect desire to just maximize their greatness in life. Like, the activation energy for almost everybody is
At Wells Fargo, we get it. Carlos started his business to obsess over things like basting, butter basting, oil basting, egg wash basting, citrus basting. He lives for the basting. What Carlos doesn't live for is the banking. Luckily, Wells...
I'm scared I might be a piece of shit. What? Hang on. Oh, God, I might be a piece of shit. I genuinely might be a piece of shit. I need to go and do something so outrageous that I can't be a piece of shit. There's no way that it can happen. I might be a coward. Oh, my God. What can I do to stop myself from being a coward? That's the activation energy.
It's funny because if you regress fear to its most basic form, it's death. And death is the greatest motivator. And like, you can prove it in a simple example. It's like if I all of a sudden go up to anybody on the street and I put a gun in their head and I say, you know, point a gun at their head and I say, go do this thing, they'll go do it. But if I say, you can have...
Fear is the best motivator. Fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. I'm pretty sure he hasn't gotten that part, but fear is what drives a lot of people. Fear is what everybody thinks one thing, but also thinks of another thing. Fear is what people want versus what people need.
Anything you want, if you do this, they're willing to go 10 times harder with a gun in their face to not die. And so if you take fear and regress it all the way down to its basis form, like, that's what the insecurity is. Like, if they think I won't be enough, and if they don't think I won't be enough, then this won't happen. If this won't happen, this won't happen, I'll be alone, I'll be dead. But like, if you just regress it all the way down, like, that's all it is. And so, like, the biggest achievers in life, I think, have most directly tied them not doing whatever it is that they want to do to death, whether they're consciously aware of it or not. And then that's what motivates them harder.
We'll get back to talking to Alex in 1 minute, but first I need to tell you about Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. It's a healthy alternative to sugary electrolyte drinks, and it's how I've started my morning every single day for over 3 years. You do not need to have coffee first thing in the morning because your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't even active, but your adrenal system is, and salt acts on your adrenal system. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium that helps to regulate appetite, curb cravings, and you're afraid of what other people will think of you if you fail. But
Failure is wanting one thing, but afraid of other people's perception or opinions of you.
if you're afraid of that, imagine what they think of you when you aren't even trying. Oh yeah, they aren't.
I'm such a dick sometimes.
Is it strange to hear your like angry toilet tweets read back to you now in the cold, harsh light of day? God, that was a particularly difficult poo I was cracking out.
That's funny. Angry toilet tweets. That's comical.
You know, real talk, the tweets that I have, people don't know this, but the tweets are notes to self.
Yep.
So they're just directed at me so that I can look back on them and like be reminders of like, hey, don't do that. And so like I think to myself, man, I'm afraid of doing this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm afraid of what this person's gonna think about me. Because if I were to be able to fail in quiet, in complete isolation, then I wouldn't care.
On the same way, if I were to fail in complete isolation, I would not give two flying fucks. I'm in the same boat that he is, and that's called fear, is only making it afraid of one thing and one thing only.
And then I think, well, what if I don't succeed in public? What do they think then? Nothing, right? They don't think about me at all. And so obviously that comes from the perspective of seeking to gain approval and attention from others anyway. So it's like, listen, if you're insecure, which everybody is, let's be real, you might as well use the insecurity to get something out of it, right? Like one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship is like use what you've got. And so a lot of people think that they need to fix their...
Use what you have. If you don't have it, build it. If you don't have it, dream it. If you don't have it, make it happen. Because if you don't have anything, you won't change, you won't learn, you won't grow from anything unless if you become that best version of yourself, if that makes sense.
conditions in order to get like the perfect conditions before they start. But the perfect condition is whatever one you're in, because it gives you whatever assets you have. That's the cards that you're dealt. And so you just play the hand. And a lot of people have great cards. It's like, man, I'm so afraid of, it's like, use it. It's like, I have nothing. What makes you very dangerous because you have nothing to lose, right? Like one of the really interesting things about, I think about it from a business perspective, but it probably applies to everything, is that there's always an advantage and a disadvantage from every position, right? So like I remember when...
Agreed. Whatever position you're coming from, there's always a positive and a negative. Could be from whatever. Could be from starting your own company. Could be from you running your own business. Could be from doing anything. Sales, marketing, anything. Where there's an advantage, there's always a disadvantage for other people. So learn with what you have and take what you got.
I mean, Gym Launch is still a big company and still continues to grow, but in the gym licensing space, there's not many people who can compete with us there, right? And I would talk to guys who are in the space, I would talk at a conference, whatever, and younger guys would be like, well, I wanna be in this space too, and it's not fair because you have this big advantage. And I was like, you have a way bigger advantage than I do. I was like, because if I were in your position, I would go to every single gym owner and be like, you don't want to be with Gym Launch. You don't want to be with Alex. You're just a number to him. Like, you're never going to talk to him. Like, you're just a cog in the wheel there. With me, you're going to get my personalized attention. There is just some employee down the chain that's following some process, right? I was like, but on the flip side, if I'm talking to that same gym owner, then I'm going to say, you don't want to talk to Jimmy. He lives in his mom's basement. He has no proof that he's good at what he's at. The reason that we're number one in the space is because we've done it so many times and we have a system that we know that if you go on this side, you will get this result on the outside. I was like, there's always a position and there's always an advantage. I was like, you just have to play the one you've got. And most people just look at what everyone else's advantage is and don't think, which one do I have?
When you're talking about, it's not you that's afraid of failing.
Yeah.
You're afraid of other people's opinions about why you're going to fail. Like, the reason I think that cynicism is so popular on the internet is that the upside of never trying is never having to feel the pain of failure.
Yeah.
That's fundamental. It's sour grapes at an existential level, right? It is a cynicism safety blanket. It is protecting you from ever having to feel the downside of anything. I will assure
Yeah.
my own failure in private so that I never have to face my failure in public.
It's kind of like investing. Like, everyone's afraid of losing money when they invest, but the only guaranteed investment that doesn't work is never investing to begin with. And so it's like they take the long failure rather than the short one, right? I mean, it's what it is.
You take the short pitfall, not the long one. Without the long failure, you are nothing but a cog in the fucking wheel. You're nothing but an action waiting to be stepped on.
Right? You just fail long. And they're like, I prefer that. But that's, I
I'd
mean,
rather
that's,
fail long.
yeah. It's like you and I are going back and forth on trying to figure out how many different ways can I say that either the people that you're worried about judgment are going to die, or that you're going to die, or that even if you do achieve the thing, they won't care anyways. Or if you don't do anything, they won't think about you to begin with. And don't you want to be thought about to begin with?
Nope.
Like, don't you want some level of significance?
Well, yeah. Well, significance is different than thought of. Thought of is just, yeah, I thought of you. And significance is only a realm of one thing versus another.
Customize and save with Liberty Mutual!
The important thing is, we stayed calm. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Holiday joy starts in Michael's with up to 60% off everything you need to decorate. Deck your halls with the latest trends, whether you're dreaming.
Alright, so this is going to be part one. This will probably be a 3-part series. But yes, like and subscribe if you want to. Also look at my Skool, because if not, then you probably will never know about my Skool. So I have it in my description of every single video, and it is in my bio. So look at my bio, click on it. It is free, and it's $15 and $30 a month. So, see ya.